How lovely to see you again.
Yes, great to see you.
In Sydney, Australia.
I'm in Sydney. You're there on the Gold Coast?
I'm on the Gold Coast. Perfect timing. It is lovely to be able to catch up with you. I really appreciate your time, and I know you're extremely busy.
Well, it's perfect. So we're going to have a nice chat.
We are. So you're here for the Master Life Planning?
I just finished that yesterday. I have an evening talk today, and I had media this morning, and I have at today's show and a couple of shows today. Then I have a presentation tonight.
Wow. Just a typical day in Dr. John Demartini's life, right? Okay, so I'm going to jump right into it because I want to make the most of this hour with you because you have such a breadth of wisdom and knowledge to share for our audience, which is mainly entrepreneurial women focused on business success and financial independence. So is it okay if I jump straight in? I have all these questions written out for you. I don't want to miss a thing.
Go for it.
So I'm going to go through them one by one, and I've got a special question at the end. So would you please share your thoughts on why so many people lack self-worth and self-love and how ultimately it keeps them from achieving business, life, and financial success?
You know that I'm going to mention values because that's just what I do. But
I hope so.
Every human being, regardless of gender, age, or culture, has a set of priorities, a set of values that they live their life by. Moment by moment, every decision they make is based on them, based on what they believe will give them the greatest advantage or disadvantage at that moment, according to these values. And this set of values, a hierarchy of values, it dictates their destiny because it impacts the perceptions, decisions, and actions we take. So anytime an individual sets sail as captain of their ship, master of their fate, on a path that is aligned and congruent with what they value most,
Yep.
Because they spontaneously are inspired to do that action, that value, they tend to excel. They tend to expand. They tend to walk their talk. They tend to achieve. Their self-worth goes up. Their time horizons, space horizons expand. They tend to wake up their natural born leader. They end up with self-confidence and belief in themselves. But the second they set a goal that is lower on that value list, because they're trying to appease other people, please other people, fit into other people's world, conform, subordinate, and live in the shadows of others. The moment they set a goal that's not really truly most important to them, they are designed to self-depreciate. They're designed to doubt themselves. And that self-depreciation, doubt, and non-fulfillment and impulsive instinctual behavior that occurs with the result of that is a feedback to let them know that they're not being authentic, because their real authentic dreams are around their highest value. What's really important to them is their identity revolves around. So self-depreciation is a feedback mechanism to let us know that we're pursuing a path that's not authentic. Because the moment we get back on track with who we really are and get in the zone and in tune on target and on purpose with what's really important to us, that self-depreciation merges into self-appreciation. So we have to set goals that are really, truly fulfilling to our highest values. I would say if we don't fill our day with high priority actions that inspire us, our day is designed to get low priority distractions that don't. One builds self-worth and confidence and belief, the other one destroys it.
So to elevate your own self-worth and to appreciate yourself more, you're saying find out what your values are and link your priorities to your values. And that will ultimately naturally raise, because people say to me, oh, it's really hard for me to look in the mirror and admire anything about myself.
Well,
usually, go ahead.
It's not necessarily linking your priorities. It's about linking the actions you do to either what's highest in value, so you feel inspired. It's about actually prioritizing your life and living by what's priority.
Yeah.
Now, many people, Albert Einstein said it really beautifully when he said, if you're a cat and you're comparing yourself to a fish, expecting yourself to swim well, you're going to beat yourself up. Yeah. If you're a fish expecting yourself to climb a tree well, you're going to beat yourself up. But if you honor yourself as a fish or honor yourself as a cat, you're going to do fine. So we have a dysmorphic syndrome. The second we compare ourselves to somebody else. Now, I had a woman that I may have mentioned this story to you before, but I had a woman that was in another country that was voted as one of the most beautiful women in the world. And she was stunning. But in her mind, she couldn't see it. Because what she was doing is she was a supermodel and she was traveling the world and she was comparing herself to parts of other supermodels. So what was happening is she was looking at this other supermodel and goes, she has thicker hair. And then she goes, oh, she's got nicer thighs. Oh, she's got nicer abs. She's got more beautiful eyes. She's got more plump lips or something. And no matter what she did, she was comparing herself to parts of other women, not the whole, but just parts. And so there's no way she could win because she was comparing her whole to a part. And the whole of the other woman wasn't as attractive, but the parts may have been in her mind. And so overall, she was not honoring anything in her body and it wasn't appreciating what it was and had dysmorphic syndrome, body dysmorphic syndrome. And even though she was voted the most beautiful woman, she couldn't see it. I had the opportunity to work with her doing the Demartini method in a training program there and actually isolate who those supermodels were, isolate the part she was comparing herself to, level the playing field by asking where and when does she display and demonstrate the same behaviors or traits until they were equal, liberate ourselves from the comparison, and give ourselves permission to actually honor her beauty. And she was just in tears, bawling because she never saw her beauty until then. And many people are doing this, not just in their physical, but there may be an individual that's going, well, they're more successful business-wise than I'm beating myself up. I should be like them. And now I need to live in their values and negate my own and self-depreciate. And the same thing in finance, the same thing in health, and the same thing in relationships, same thing in spirituality and social leadership. Anytime we compare ourselves to other people, instead of comparing our own daily actions to our own highest values, we will dilute ourselves, depreciate ourselves, scatter ourselves, and inject all these values of other people in our life and scatter what it is that we feel is unique and called to us. And we'll self-depreciate. And we're designed to do that because we're not being authentic. And the second we get back to being authentic, all that liberates.
Exactly. It's very, very powerful. Thank you for that. One of my favorite quotes of yours, and there are many quotes that I love, but this one I really think is very profound. And you say, until you have a cause greater than yourself, you won't get beyond yourself. So my question around this, it seems so many people gauge their success and based on other people's authority or ideals or perceptions. How can we utilize our own imagination and create a life filled with possibility and true inspiration as you have? Because your story is very inspirational.
We're not here to compare ourselves to others. That's self-defeating.
Yep.
We're here to compare ourselves to our own highest values and dreams. If I compare myself to someone that's wealthier, I'm going to feel poor. If I compare myself to somebody that's poor, I'm going to feel wealthy. But if I just compare my own actions to my own dreams, I'm going to build momentum. And what happens is what other people think about me or what I think of them isn't really important. Putting people on pedestals or pits isn't where it's at. It's about putting people in hearts. What the truth is, we're all reflections and nothing's missing in us, but we're too proud to admit it or too humble to admit what we see in others inside us. In the breakthrough experience, as you know, I have people go in there and take their heroes and their villains and own the traits and level the playing field so they give themselves permission to do something extraordinary. Because in the essence of our being, there's nothing missing. In the existence of our sensory perceived being, we think there's things missing, but nothing's missing us. We're not missing anything. We have amazing potential inside us. We don't give ourselves permission to see it because of comparison. So taking the time to prioritize your life based on what you value and so put so much focus on that, you don't have time to be judging other people. Because if you infatuate with somebody, they're going to occupy space and time in your mind, and you're going to want to change you to live in their values, which you can't. And if you resent somebody, you're going to want to project your values onto them and change them into you, which they can't. All that energy is dissipated energy, and it's not going to get productivity. And you're basically, distorting who you are with prides and shames, which undermine your potential. So we're here not to be impulsive or instinctual. We're here to be inspired and intuitive.
Beautiful. And so people talk about balance. There's a lot of debate on it. Some say it's illusion. Some say it's possible. Here's my question for you. When you are living according to your values, what's high on your priorities, is a balanced life a possibility?
Well, when you're living by your highest values, the way your brain is, it's more objective. Let me use an analogy. If you have a young boy who loves his video games and he can't wait to get up in the morning and do his video games, the second he goes and plays his video games, he's going to conquer it. He's going to win. And he's not going to stop until he conquers it. And the moment he does, he's going to want to go and find a more advanced game. So individuals that are pursuing what they value most pursue challenges that inspire them. They want to go on to the next level and tackle a bigger challenge. So that means challenge and support are more even and more objective and more balanced. But the second the person's not doing what they love to do, their homework, their chores, they're cleaning a room or whatever, they're going to hesitate, procrastinate, frustrate doing it. They're going to want to avoid challenge and look for ease. And they're going to want to be more polarized and look for a one-sided world. Positive without negative, happy without sad, all one-sided stuff. And the pursuit of that is self-defeating. But when you actually embrace both sides and you're more objective, you have the possibility of achieving it. If somebody came up to me and says, "Oh, Dr. Demartini, you're always up, you're never down, you're always kind, you're never cruel, you're always peaceful, never wrathful, you're always giving, you're never taking," all this stuff, and I just go, bullshit, that's not true. That would be your intuition would immediately think of all the times you're mean, cruel, and everything else. And if I went around and said the same thing on the opposite way, "Oh, you're always mean, you're never nice, you're always cruel, you're never kind, you're always stingy, you're never generous," I would also go, bull, that's not true. But if somebody said, "Dr. Demartini, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're mean, sometimes you're kind, sometimes you're cruel, sometimes you're generous, sometimes you're stingy, sometimes you're peaceful, sometimes you're wrathful," I'd go, that's me. I'm both. So when you can embrace both sides of yourself and set goals that have both sides, they're attainable and you can have certainty about them. And that's what a balance is. A balance isn't trying to go, I want 3 hours a day for each of the 7 areas of my life, etc. See, I look at it this way. When I'm going and doing what I love, which is teaching, my social life is being impacted. It's not the storybook social life that some people think, going out to a bar and talking to people. That's not important to me. But the social life is being impacted when I'm doing what I love. My business is being impacted. My wealth is being impacted. There's like a family to me in some respects. I'm inspired by it. I get to physically activity when doing it. So I have the opportunity to spend doing what I love, and all 7 areas of my life are actually being impacted. So a balance is not based on a storybook ideology or tradition of other people's idea what that's supposed to look like. It's about what's important to you and finding the balance according to your structure and view about what that balance is.
I love that answer, because people talk about it all the time, and I've always felt like you have just said that when you're focused on what you're truly loving to do each and every day, it doesn't matter what other people think. It's how you feel, right? That's in essence what you're saying. So it actually is possible if you're living according to your own values.
Yeah, if you do, and you also want to link it. I mean, I learned a long time ago as I teach in the Breakthrough Experience that nothing's missing. And people go, what? What does that mean? I said, well, okay. I learned this actually when I was 14 years old. I mean, when I left home at 13, and then I hitchhiked out to California when I was 14, I ended up staying with a woman out there in California. I didn't have my parents. They were living in Texas. And I lived with this woman that was older than me. She was 27 when I was 14. And she played a role of a mother and a girlfriend in some respects. And I realized, wow, I got a girlfriend and a mother, even though my mother and girlfriend was back there. I've kind of got the people playing that role. And I started realizing as I was hitchhiking and moving around and went down to Mexico and places, all these different people morphed in and out of my life that were playing different roles. And I realized if I get stuck on the way it's supposed to be in this little box, I'll miss out on the magnificence of all the different forms that are emerging in family members and in opportunities in business and all this. So I basically got out of the box and realized that nothing was missing, and it's the awareness and asking the questions, because the quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions. What do I think is missing, and what form is it in today? And once I realize it's there, it's not missing, I have fulfillment. And then I realized that all the areas of my life are fulfillable to whatever degree that I can perceive, and it's a mastery of perception. And that was really liberating to realize that nothing was missing along my journey. So I didn't have this accumulation that many people have about, I missed out on this, and I should have had it this way, and my mom didn't do this, and my father was this way. No, whatever's happened in your life, how has it helped you fulfill what's your most meaningful? If you come from that perspective and answer that question and see it, you're grateful for life.
That's awesome, because what that in essence does, it helps people kind of balance their emotions, because there's a lot of talk out there about mental instability at the moment. And what would you say is the biggest cause of people just out of control with their emotions and having mental health issues?
Without a question, not living congruently with their highest values. That's it.
Yeah.
Because the moment when you live congruently with your highest values, and live by priority, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain, the executive center comes online. An inspired vision becomes clear. You strategically plan strategies on how to achieve things. You tend to want to execute them. You tend to have self-governance. Your glutamate and your GABA, which is your stimulant and inhibitory neurotransmitters, are released into your amygdala, which is your impulse and instinct center, and it calms down all the distractions. You stay focused. But the second you're living by lower values and trying to please other people and conform and fit in and lose your own identity, and you go back and have unfulfillment, you go into the amygdala, you automatically go for impulsive and instinctual behaviors where you're distracted from the external world instead of driven from the internal call. And I think that what is the number one cause of the depreciation of the higher area of the brain. A lot of conditions, mental illness conditions, is a demyelinization of the forebrain and an accentuation of the amygdala, which is the desire center. And that center wants impulsive, immediate gratification and addictive behaviors, and it wants it quick, and it wants to avoid pain, and it keeps striving for that which is unavailable and trying to avoid that which is unavoidable. And there's no way you're going to have fulfillment making up fantasies and trying to avoid nightmares all your life. You have to live by intuition and inspiration instead of impulse and instincts all the time.
It's really interesting because it's a touchy subject. And if sometimes, you might make a suggestion that look at your life, how you're playing out in your life before you look at, perhaps taking a pill. Some people get a little bit edgy on that because every second person is suffering from anxiety or depression or bipolar. It's just becoming much more common. However, what you're suggesting is if people stop, look at their life, ask themselves better questions, see whose roles they're playing out, that they can perhaps calm their emotions and feel.
An emotion is nothing more than an imbalanced perspective. That's it. If you infatuate with somebody, you're conscious of the upsides, you're unconscious of the downsides. If you're resentful to somebody, you're conscious of the downsides, you're unconscious of the upsides. When you're infatuated or resentful, they occupy space and time in your mind and run your mind and make all this noise in the brain. And you have an emotion of, I got to have it with an impulse, or I got to avoid it with an instinct. The moment you balance out your mind and ask and learn to ask questions that balance the mind, which, as you know, is the Demartini method, that's what it's for. To ask questions, because the quality of life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. If you ask questions that equilibrate the mind and bring it back into balance, the emotions turn into love. The emotions turn into inspiration. The emotions turn into gratitude. The emotions turn into more certainty and more presence and more, you might say, enthusiasm for life. It automatically remyelinates the forebrain, automatically transcends the bipolar nature and the emotional nature and the schizoid behaviors. We automatically change our life. I've seen so many people that have had so-called depressions, bipolar responses, prioritize their life, start doing that, start learning how to ask questions to see both sides of events so they're not swayed by illusions of one-sidedness, and liberate themselves from these so-called labels that pharmaceutical companies and psychologists like to pose on people.
And I have experienced the breakthrough experience. It's completely life-changing. And, I would suggest anyone who wants to get back to optimum health and just live a life by design, it is absolutely a game changer. And I thank you for the work you've done. Now, I want to ask you a question because this one is one of my favorites. I remember coming to a seminar of yours in Sydney and seeing this incredible painting that somebody had painted for you of you were standing on a balcony addressing, I think it was 1 million people. And that was one of your visualization dreams, correct? And my question is, I think you had visualized affecting billions of people globally with your trainings and your teaching and your philosophies. Now, would you share with our listeners the importance of visualization? I know you have a couple of other stories. Would you mind sharing those with us?
Yeah, I was sharing in Melbourne, Australia, maybe 7 years ago, I guess, 8 years ago, something like that. 6 years ago, maybe. I was sharing my vision of what happened to me when I was 17.
Yeah.
And a gentleman in the audience in Melbourne, Australia, named Andrew Tischler, who's a magnificent painter, very especially gifted guy. Well, I don't want to say gift. He's worked hard for it. So he's looks like a gift, but he's actually a dedicated man. He came up to me and he says, would you give me the honor of painting that vision that you just shared? Because it brought me to tears. And I said, wow, that would be an inspiration for me to see. And so he took from a live seminar, live presentation, that image that he saw when I described it and sketched it and sent me a copy of it. I gave him just one little feedback on it, and then he went to paint it. And when he painted it, when I saw it, I just was brought to tears. I was going, whoa, this man captured a vision I had in my mind when I was 17 years old. It was amazing. And it was me standing on a balcony over a giant square with 1 million people in it. And in the background was a major iconic building from every major city around the world, because I had a dream to travel the world and go to all major cities in the world to speak. And he just captured it. It sits in my office on display. And when we were in Melbourne, I guess about 6 to 8 months later or something like that, he asked if he could actually unveil it in front of the audience. And I said, that would be wonderful. And he showed it, and it just inspired a lot of people when they actually unveiled that painting, because it was a capturing of what I had described. And I'd shared the story, and people go, whoa, that's the image that they pictured. It was really quite beautiful. So I'm a firm believer that if you hold a vision of something and you take actions on it, and it's clear in your mind, which is an executive function, there's nothing on this planet that cannot be, in a sense, conquered to get there. I'm a firm believer that your innermost dominant thought and innermost dominant vision can become your reality. I travel a lot. I've been 154 countries speaking now, and I've been blessed to reach a lot of people. And I do believe that now we have internet, we have social media, and we have things different than 1972 when I saw that vision. And now we're reaching people in massive numbers. I mean, I'm getting ready to go on a show, London Real, that has 1 billion or 500 million viewers on that show. And so it's massive. So I do that in about a week or so. And that's inspiring to know that you can reach, 500 million people in a very short period of time now, where before, that was a lot of work. You had to do a lot. But so the reality is that you can achieve things that you set your mind to if you hold the vision and never lose it. I would say your vitality in life is directly proportional to the vividness of the vision. And any detail you leave out of the vision becomes an obstacle you face. But if you get crystal clear in your vision and you hold your vision and you keep acting towards the vision, just like when you're driving, let's say you're in a car crash, and if you look at a tree, you're going to go in the direction of the tree. Anybody that does car racing knows whatever they look at is where they go. So if you actually go and look at what it is you really want in life and you hold that vision and never lose that vision, those with a vision flourish, and those without a vision perish. It's an old proverb. It's true. So vision has a massive impact on creating what we want. I think Michael Phelps demonstrated that with 22 gold medals, and I've certainly gotten to do that in my life, doing what I love doing, which is traveling and teaching.
And what about the other story about where you live? Would you love to share that? I think that is an inspirational story as well.
Well, I was reading Albert Einstein. I came home from Hawaii, and I moved to Texas again. And I'd been given an affirmation by Paul Bragg that I am a genius and I apply my wisdom. And he told me if I said that every single day, it would help me overcome my learning problems, because I had learning challenges. I come home and I asked my mom, what exactly is a genius? And she said, it's people like Albert Einstein and Da Vinci. And I said, well, I want to get every book on those two guys that is available. And I want to learn how to read, and I want to learn how to read those and read about these men. And she said, okay. And then I happened to read something about Albert Einstein's book. He says, I'm not a man of my family. I'm not a man of my community. I'm not a man of my city. I'm not a man of my nation. I'm a citizen of the world, etc. And then he referred to Epictetus, who wrote about Socrates. And Socrates said, I'm not a man of Corinth. I'm not a man of Athens. I'm a citizen of the universe. And that, I wrote those down. It just brought a tear to my eye, and I wrote them down. Whenever I get a tear of inspiration, I write it down, and I keep it in my manual, my giant master planning manuals. There's 24 volumes today. And I started to say to myself a new affirmation. I said, the universe is my playground. The world is my home. Every country is a room in the house. And every city is a platform to share my heart and soul. So that was an affirmation. Part of it started at age 18. Part of it was continued and refined at age 20. And then I've been saying that ever since, daily. In 2001, after 9/11, my wife and I were living in Trump Tower, right underneath the Donald. We had the 62nd floor there and a few other people, and then Donald. And what's interesting is when we had the 9/11, my wife didn't want to be there. And so we came over to the Gold Coast of Australia, where you live.
Yep.
And we had some properties up and down the Gold Coast, some condominiums and stuff. And so in the process of doing it, we came there, and I said to her, I'm not scheduled to be in Australia but 4 times a year. I'm not going to see if you're living over there. And she didn't want to be in New York for a while because she needed a break. And I said, okay, we got to figure out something to do. And I knew about a ship called the World that I'd seen in a Rob Report magazine. And so I decided to buy a condominium on this ship, which circumnavigates the world, which is a very interesting group of 100 people that travel the world on this giant ship. And so I bought that as an anniversary present and as a way to see my wife, basically. And in so doing it, we ended up going to the inaugural launch where the Queen of Norway was there and a lot of interesting people there. It was really a royal kind of thing. And on the night before the launch, the captain on the launch said, "Welcome to your home." He was a Viking guy.
Yeah.
"The universe is your playground. The world is now your home. And every country is a room in the house." He didn't say every city is a platform, but when he said that, I just came down in tears. I looked at my wife and she goes, "Wow, we had no idea that was going to happen." But the affirmation that I set became my reality. And now I live on a ship called the World, where you can see the universe out at sea, and it goes to every country around the world. And you wake up in a different country each day as you travel. So I'm a firm believer that what you say to yourself, what you see for yourself, how you think about yourself, and how you feel about yourself has an impact on your destiny.
Truly profound. And so today, do you still use a vision board or a dream board of some sort? And if so, what do you have on it? What's next?
Let me pull something. Hold on.
Yep.
I don't have a vision board because I travel full time. I have 24 volumes of vision books.
Love it.
So it has literally everything that I have written down as a major mission in my life to achieve. So everything is in here, every detail. So I say I want to travel the world. I keep records of every country, every city, 2,039 cities now I've spoken in. Every corporation I wanted to consult with, documented. Every celebrity I work with, documented. Every book I do, every radio, television, newspaper, magazine, podcast, webinar, Zoom, you already typed in there today.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. In fact, I want a picture of you sent over so I can put that in there. But I'm a metric guy, because if you really value something, you'll metric it to make sure you're making progress on it and to refine your actions to get it. So this is a vision pictorial book that basically has literally day by day every metric on what I'm setting out to do. Every movie I've been, 43 movies.
I can see that.
Yeah, everything is all documented, exactly what I want to do and all the metrics. I even had a goal that I wrote. Get this one. And I wrote this goal down when I was 16. You probably remember it, that I was going to surf on the North Shore, big waves on the North Shore at 65.
I saw you doing it. I love that photo. Oh, I won't ask how long you were standing up for, but it looks pretty good, because you've been saying that for many years that I've known you. And the last time we were together down in Sydney, you were saying, my 65th birthday is coming up. I'm surfing the North Shore. And
well, so that's me taking off. I surf Laniakea and Pipeline, and that's right next to Pipeline. It was only about 10 to 14 foot faces. It wasn't big, but it was. I used to ride big waves. But
you
it
look
was
30 years old there.
Well, I'm 65. And I cranked it out on that day. And I keep records of everything I set out to do. That was a 49-year goal that I'd worked on, because I knew when I was 65 I was going to do it. And now I've written it for 100. So when I'm 100, I'm going to go back there and surf again. But hopefully it'll be bigger then. And but I keep record of everything, because it's inspiring to realize that you can actually achieve what you set your mind to.
Yeah.
If you give yourself permission to do it. And people go, well, that's kind of neurotic, I set out a goal that I wanted to have my books in 50 languages. I'm at 36 now, so I'm not quite there, but I'm getting there. And I wrote when I was 23, I wrote about something to do with radio, television, newspapers, magazines. It's now all true. So I'm a firm believer that if you set something, but the thing is to set a goal that's really congruent, that's really, truly meaningful to you, that there's no fantasy. It's something you're really dedicated to doing, you're working on, and you're showing evidence of it on a daily basis. Don't set goals that aren't congruent with highest values. Don't waste your time on fantasies. Set goals, fewer in number, that are absolutely deeply meaningful. and watch what happens.
I remember sitting in the class with you the last time I saw you, and you were saying, I'm surfing pipeline, and there wasn't an ounce in me or anything in me that didn't believe it. I knew you were going to do it. And
Yeah.
I also love how you linked that time with the seminar. So you still did what you'd come here to do. You're still living your purpose while you're out there surfing. I saw all the photos. Loved it.
Yeah. My daughter was there. She was laughing. She goes, Dad did it. He did it. But I was, Lani Kea is where I almost died. I was surfing about a 40-foot face wave at Lani Kea when I almost died. And I said, I'm going out there at 65. I'm going to do it again. It wasn't as big. It was only about 14-foot faces, but still, it was just an inspiration to paddle a quarter of a mile out about and surf some big waves and come back in and then go to the next place and surf there. It was very lovely. Because, it's been a while. I don't surf every day. It's been actually some years. But I used, believe it or not, in order to get in shape for that, because I wasn't around the surf, I was jogging up and down in the hotel room, scratching and crawling on beds to get in shape, doing push-ups and sit-ups and stuff, getting prepared for that day, right?
Yep.
It was really quite funny. One lady came in to clean the room or whatever and saw me there. I forgot to lock the door or whatever, to latch it. Do you mind if I ask you, what are you doing? You're crawling on a bed. I said, I'm preparing to ride big waves in the North Shore, and I don't have surf here right now.
Oh, I hope you had your pants on.
Yeah, I had my underwear on, but it was quite funny. But it was, people are probably thinking, that's weird. Too much information. But when you really want something, you find a way of getting it.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to set goals that are high in your values, because when the why is big enough, the house take care of themselves.
And I love that, because you've been wanting to do that, reach that goal for so many years. And I know that your travel is at 360 days of the year to share your wisdom and your knowledge with everyone around the globe, and yet you still fit in time. So when you set a goal, it is always congruent to your highest values, and you do whatever it takes to achieve it.
That's it. I said, when I knew I was going to go to Hawaii, I just organized a seminar in Hawaii. And I saw that. Yeah, I just organized a seminar there so I could just take a little brief break and just run over to the North Shore and surf. And we got up at 4 o'clock. We left at 4 something. Got out there at 5:45, 5:50. Got in the water before 6 and surfed Lani Kea for almost 2 hours. Then I came in and I went down further down the North Shore to Pipeline, Ikai Beach Park. And then we went back out again, or I went out again, and did almost another 2 hours. So I didn't want to stay out and get burned, because I was the only white person out there, I think, because I wasn't used to being in the sun that much. But I just did it anyway.
And so I'm going to jump ahead, because a couple of other questions I really want to get to, but it leads me, this has been a dream of yours for many years. And one of the questions I was going to ask you is, as entrepreneurs, many of us don't stop to see that we've achieved all of these goals and dreams along the way that we've had on our dream board or written down. How did you feel surfing out into the waves? Did you stop and acknowledge yourself for a moment that is another massive, massive goal that you've ticked off, or you just sort of punched through it and on to the next one? And is it important to stop and recognize?
Well, when I paddled out, I walked down the beach at Lani Kea, and my daughter and her boyfriend and my other daughter were there, and they were taking pictures. And also Ike, who owns a big franchise company, about 80 franchises, he was there. And that's it, just a small group. And when I paddled out, once I hit that water, I thought I was about 18, 17. I forgot about age. It was no different than when I was paddling back when I was living in the North Shore. And when I took off and got on the wave and rode the wave, I had no idea about age, no idea about any of that. It was like I had not left there, 47 years ago. And then I went over to Pipeline and I surfed there. Same thing. I didn't have any age. When you're in the water, you don't think about it. And when I came in, I went and sat on the park bench that I used to sleep under when I was 15, 16. And when I sat there, my daughter wanted to get a picture. This is the park bench she used to sleep under, because I used to get under that in case it rained a bit. And a lady came up to me and says, "Are you Dr. Demartini?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Oh my God, I recognize you from your podcasts and stuff like that. Just a lady that was visiting there. And I thought, wow. And so she said, can I get a picture? And we sat down and got a picture there. And then I was getting ready to go in. I took a quick shower at the beach thing. And I was walking back to the car, and a guy on a bicycle drove by on his bicycle. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I went, oh my God, I know that guy. And he turns around and he goes, I know you. And I said, I gave him a howley kind of sign for Hawaii. And I saw a guy that I used to surf with, literally 48 years earlier. And he was still there. And it was an acknowledgement after 49 years almost, of a guy that was surfing. He looked older, a little older than me, but because he'd been weathered by the surf more. But it was really kind of cool when we saw it. And my daughter said, do you know that guy? I said, I do. I said, that's just remarkable that he's still here surfing and you recognize it. So there was sort of a timeless mind, ageless body construct, as Deepak says, in that moment of going surfing. So I didn't think of it as that I was, aged, even though my body probably didn't look the same.
Looked pretty good to me. And so it's important to stop and recognize where you've come and take a moment to just be in the moment. That's kind of in essence what you were doing. You were just being in the moment. And
I really think that, I was very grateful. I mean, I had a lot of gratitude, and I was very inspired because the day was perfect sunny and the waves were perfect shape. The temperature was great. I mean, it was one of those magical moments that it worked. And all I can say is I was very grateful and I was inspired. And my daughters were very, very inspired to be there. It was nice to be there with, my son was not able to be there, but my two daughters were there. And that was really inspiring to because they've known me, they're 35 and 32, and they've known me and heard me talk about what I was going to do, and to actually be there on the day it happens is pretty cool.
So what's the next big goal or the big dream? What's on the vision board now?
Well, I'm consistently doing, what I do is researching, writing, traveling, and teaching. And I still have another 50 something countries to get to. I haven't reached them all. I've done 154, but we've got Sri Lanka coming up, and it looks like we got one other country so far, but I'm trying to get at least 4 a year, new ones. So that's still important. I've got a new movie that we're filming right now on what I'm doing, the Breakthrough. We got another movie coming out. I had the opportunity, I talk about owning the traits of the greats.
Yes.
And I wrote a book on cosmology and astrophysics, 2 big volumes, about 1,000-page textbooks that I did a couple years ago, a year and a half ago. And during that time, I did the Demartini method on Stephen Hawking because I thought that was an inspiring guy. And in July, I was in London and I got asked by a CNN correspondent, they're doing a movie and a book, and they asked me to be in it. And I said, well, tell me about it. And they said, well, it's going to have Stephen Hawking is going to be in it. Michael Douglas, Robin Williams, before he passed away, we filmed him. We filmed Stephen Hawking before he passed. Tom Ford, Anthony Quinn's son, a number of people. It says we got 12 people that we want to do a feature on for the movie and also the book on people that have impacted the 21st century. And I thought, wow, here I did the method and own the traits of Stephen Hawking, and a matter of months later, I get the opportunity to be in a little bit of a film and a book in this guy. And he was like one of those people that I respected.
Yep.
And so that's cool. That's going on. I also got the opportunity. This year I'm getting an award from the International Association of Top Professionals. I'm getting an award as the leading human behavioral specialist in the world, #1. So that's a goal. That's happening. And that'll be at the Plaza Hotel, and they're going to put a big thing in a 1-page thing in the Wall Street Journal, and I'll be on the marquee at Times Square, and there'll be a video showing there. So that's kind of cool. There's lots of stuff that is going on. So
so much to look forward to, and so deserving,
it's just, if you just stay with something,
yep.
I was told I would never be able to read, write, or communicate or amount to thing and never go very far in life when I was in first grade. But thank God for that teacher, because that became the voids that ended up being the things that I wanted to do most. But if you stay with something long enough, you can go from living under a park bench or a bridge like I used to live, to living on one of the most beautiful yachts in the world. So it's just a matter of staying with something, never giving up on it.
I love it. I love these stories, and I could keep you here all afternoon. However, I'm just going to change pace for a moment. A lot of our listeners are very much interested in business success, financial independence. How would you say those two are interlinked? And why is it that most people never reach financial independence, let alone become extremely wealthy?
Well, financial independence is not a nebulous fantasy, thing. It's a very specific thing. If you ask 10 questions, what are my total assets? What are my total liabilities? Put those two together, one minus the other. What is my total net worth right now, current net worth? You need to know where you are. Then you need to know what exactly do you want to live on passively that you're going to call financial independence. You need a finite number you're targeting, minimum. Then you need to know what the average interest rate is that you believe you can earn from either leveraging it through investments of stocks or real estate. You need to know what the inflation rate is because that erodes it. You also need to know what exactly is the total net worth you require at that interest rate against that inflation to give you that amount that you're striving to live on every year. Then you need to know what the shortfall between your current net worth and that net worth. Then you need to have a strategy on how you're going to do it. And that strategy has to be something hopefully congruent that you're inspired to do spontaneously and that serves vast numbers of people. So there's vast numbers of people wanting to buy it and serve, so you have great numbers of income. And if you have those things in place, you have a high probability of doing it. But the majority of people fantasize about the lifestyles of the rich and famous, and they imagine spending money on consumables that depreciate in value instead of actually buying assets that work for them. So they become a slave to money instead of its master. And most people don't have the values to build wealth, and the hierarchy of their values dictates their financial destiny. And unless they have a real value on wealth building, money's going to pass through their hands into other people's hands that value it more. Just like relationships, they go to people who appreciate it more. Money goes into the hands of people who appreciate it, and the way they know they appreciate it is they manage it wisely and they organize it where it appreciates in value. When people live by their highest values, they appreciate. When they go in lower values, they depreciate. If they go and actually have a value on wealth building, then they'll put money into something that goes up in value. If they don't have a value on wealth building, they'll keep buying things that are consumables that go down in value. And people that buy things that go up in value can get ahead and have money work for them. People that don't get behind and have to work their whole life for money. And majority of people don't know what their values are, don't live congruently, trying to fit in. They don't have a structure and a strategy, and they live vicariously through the fantasy of other people, and then they spend huge sums of money on overpriced brands to make them feel temporarily high for their self-depreciation instead of building a brand that other people buy to actually build the life that they dream.
So what is the solution for the people listening?
For the solution is really quite simple. Yep. First, identify what your values are and look at where wealth building is on it. Because if it's not high on your values, it's not going to end up in your hands. Because money circulates through the economy from those who value it least to those who value it most. Then if it's low on your values, you've got two things. You can either give up on the fantasy you're going to be financially independent, it's not going to happen, or you can shift your values. Now, I teach people how to shift their values if they'd like to build wealth, and how to stack up and make new associations for the action steps that have proven themselves to build wealth. Because if you don't have a high value on doing that, and there's more advantage to doing those actions than other actions, you won't ever do the actions. So you sit down and write down what I call the 6 steps to wealth. And those 6 steps to wealth are, you have to have a desire and to build a business that serves vast numbers of people. If you don't have a desire to build something that serves people, why would you expect to be wealthy? You're not going to serve anybody. You're not going to deserve anything. So you want to build something. The wealthiest people have businesses that serve vast numbers of people. Bill Gates, everybody's used Microsoft. Everybody's benefited by it. No wonder he's a billionaire. If you can go do something and care about humanity enough to find something that fulfills a vast number of people, there's no reason why you can't be wealthy. Then you want to manage the business where it's effectively and efficiently, where it's maximizing profits. If you or somebody else that doesn't have, you might say, a pulse on an efficiency and effectiveness of a business, then there's no profit margins. And if then the third one is to make sure that you save an ever-progressive portion of the profits. You literally stair-step an acceleration of savings and building up a cash reserve in liquidity in your business to stabilize the volatilities of a business, to make sure that you actually have a business grow in vitality. And the next one is to make sure that you actually invest in ever greater degrees of leverage and learn how to do investing, buying quality companies or buying quality properties or buying things that go up in value that return on investment. And then also you want to make sure that you have a desire to accumulate it, because if you get to a comfort zone and you don't have a desire to accumulate it and have a cause or a reason to accumulate it, it will never really build and work for you. And then you need a financial cause that will give you a legacy, because sooner or later with financial independence, you're going to pass and your money's going to have to be then distributed to something that's really deeply meaningful to you. So if you put those 6 steps in place and stack up the benefits of the action steps that are proven to fulfill those, and those are higher on your value list than other things, you're on your way to having wealth. And if you then get really clear and numerically on what exactly is the financial independence that you want, which I did when I was 27, almost 28, your life changes financially. But until you have a real, truly caring about humanity and a desire to want to serve people and a desire to build wealth and raise standards of the world's economy, it's probably just a fantasy that'll be, self-defeating over time. I met a lady I was consulting with yesterday. She's a very famous lady and a celebrity. Has made millions, has never saved well. So she's literally made millions, literally millions. It's all passed right through her hands. And she realized just recently, I have not valued wealth building, and I've just assumed that I can always do this. But the reality is I'm now closer to the 50 mark, and I'm now thinking I need to start making my money work for me instead of me working for it. And I'd much rather be its master than its slave.
So Dr. John Demartini, when you get to that point, and I've met many women and guys who have got to that point thinking that they're going to be young and they want to do their thing forever, and they've just gone, wow, I need to think differently. What would be the very first step that anyone listening to this today could take to sort of turn the corner and change their thinking around money, or their self-worth at least?
Well, although there's people out there that do trades and do zero-sum games to get wealth building, if they don't invest it, they're still actively engaged in having to do something. That can be a full-time job even. Yeah. So I really believe that it's essential that you first identify what your values are and get really honest about where you are. A lot of people, I've been doing value determination for 42 years, and I'm amazed at how many people don't even have wealth building on their list of values, on the top 5 or 6 values. If it's not in the top 4 values, financial independence isn't going to happen. I've seen it. I've done it. I've documented thousands of people, and I know that's true. The first thing is that where is money and wealth building on your value list? Because if it's low, you're going to get money and you're going to spend it on the things above it before you'll ever get anything. You'll always have more money month at the end of your money than money at the end of your month. If it is low and you really truly want to do it, we have to raise the value of it. And we have to find out the action steps, which I just mentioned, some of them, and get those action steps and stack up what's the benefit of doing those action steps. Because until the advantages of doing those action steps is greater than any other action steps you do, you're not going to do it. Because you always make decisions based on what will give you the greatest advantage over disadvantage. You have to stack those up in such a degree where that becomes, a very high priority for you to make sure that you invest money every week or every month. And it's got to be high enough where you then have a value on learning about it, studying it. When you really value something, you learn about it. Warren Buffett started reading about wealth building when he was a friggin' kid. By the time he was 11, he read every book in the Omaha, Nebraska library on wealth building. That's why he's where he is. Big part of it, he learned. And I've read about 1,600 books now on that topic. And so I wanted to make sure I understood that knowledge of that. So if you really value something, you study it. And I would be studying it. And I would also then get mentorship and find people that are already, wherever you want to go with it, you need somebody who's at least that or more to guide the path because they've already done it. And then that doesn't mean duplicate them exactly. It doesn't mean be them. It means find out the strategy and the game plan or the model that they're using to get it. And then it's basically electronically structuring it so you have no emotions. Emotions destroy wealth. Electronic structures do amazing. I did an automatic savings and then automatic vesting, which I call the force accelerated savings technique and a force accelerated investment technique, starting at age 27, 28. And I accelerated it and I signed a document that they could increase my savings and increase my investments every quarter until I say stop. And I did that for some 30 years. And that doubles every 2 years, and that becomes an enormous amount of money all of a sudden if you stay with it. And I just kept then building my business to fulfill that. And you're not going to do it being a fixed income. You're going to have to go out and make a difference and get out of your box, because you're going to pay the most taxes working for others. You're going to pay less taxes working for yourself. And you're going to pay the least taxes once you invest. So I basically electronically structured it where there's no emotion. It's just done. And then I go focus on serving people, care about people.
And it makes total sense. I've been around wealth creation seminars. You've been around wealth creation seminars, and everybody puts their hands up. What is it? What is the difference between people that actually go and do what you're suggesting? I know I've been out and done a lot of what you're suggesting, and then others fantasize about it, but what stops them?
They don't have the value on it. And they don't have somebody that actually takes them and makes it happen. I'm guessing, I don't know how many people, a few thousand people maybe, that I have personally gone, they paid me to consult with them to help them become wealthy, right?
Yep.
And then what I did is I go over there and I structure with an investment company on automated structures for their taxes, their depreciation, their vacation, their budgets, I structure it. And once it's structured, they go, I could have done this 20 years ago. I said, I know. You just never did it. And now my money's coming in and it's allocated, and part of it goes to taxes, part of it goes to savings, part of it goes to investments. He goes, it's being done. It's working. I'm growing. And I said, yeah, it's that simple. It just now all you have to do is care about people and serve people. If you care about them, you're going to do well. If you don't care about people, don't expect to have wealth. I said at a church one time, and it didn't go over too well at first. I said, if you're poor, it's because you don't care about humanity. And a bunch of people went, And they have this internal conflict because of religious dogma that money and spirituality are wrong and it's backwards. And all. Man, if you're serving people, that's inspiring. And if you're getting rewarded, that's inspiring. There's no reason why you can't go and serve vast numbers of people and have vast fortunes. There's nothing unspiritual about it. In fact, it's unspiritual to sit there and do nothing for somebody and then live in poverty, because now you're dependent on socialistic governments to take care of you that other people who worked hard paid for. It's much wiser to go out and make a difference, because it's fulfilling to make a difference in people's lives. You know, when we're doing what we're doing, if somebody's impacted by it, it's always rewarding for us to hear that.
Oh, it's so fulfilling spiritually. It's an incredible feeling, and people get so wound up about money and they say that it's not spiritual. What you're saying is, if you have a business that serves vast amounts of people, what's not spiritual about that? Make your spiritual quest a business quest. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. You know, if you exaggerate yourself with pride and talk down to people, you're not going to listen to your customers' needs, and you're not going to do well in business. So pride is not the secret. If you're humble and you're altruistic and minimizing yourself to other people, you're going to sacrifice your profits. That's not going to be in business. It's only if you have equity, where you and they are equally valuable, and you have equanimity within yourself, neither pride nor shame, and equity between you and them, and there's a reflective awareness. And reflective awareness is the spiritual state that opens the heart. And it is also exactly the place where you have sustainable fair exchange, which makes the most wealth. So wealth and spirituality are not separated. They're identical. It's quite obvious when you stop and look at really the human psychology. And every one of us want to have love for who we are, not for who we need to be by somebody else's projections, or not people sacrificing to us, which is like an umbilical cord plugging into us and draining us. We want to be around people that are doing what they love, loving what they do, and inspired. And if we do that and exemplify that, a whole lot of opportunities come into our life.
Absolutely. Nothing else to add there. It's absolutely perfect. And I hope people who are listening to this are taking copious amounts of notes. I want to end up with this question that I've written out here. I'm going to read it out because I'm going to give you a moment to answer it for us. Of all the things that you have done and experienced in your life, I know a lot about your story from childhood, the problems that you had growing up, the learning disabilities, and stories about your mum and living on the streets, surfing the waves in Hawaii, to writing over 40 books, maybe more now. Is it still 40 or more than 40 these days?
Well, if I put all the manuscripts in, it's around 300. If I put just the self-help books that are out in the mass market, then that's about 40.
Creating various life-altering courses, teaching ancient and modern-day philosophies, founding the Demartini method that has over 1,000 uses, and so much more. Dr. Demartini, what do you feel has been your most important and inspired contribution to the world that will possibly impact generations to come?
I think the most significant thing is the method itself that I developed. You know, that I don't think it hasn't gotten out there as much as it's going to.
Yeah.
And it is a very profound tool for transforming the daily chaos that most people perceive their life through, and finding the hidden order. Because I really believe we live in a magnificent universe, and we don't recognize it because we have not learned how to ask the right questions to reveal it to ourselves. When we infatuate, we're conscious of the upsides and unconscious of the downsides. When we're resentful, we're conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides. But when we're fully conscious, we see both sides. And when we do, we realize there's nothing to change in us relative to others or others relative to us. There's nothing to change at all. There's just an awe and an acknowledgement of a magnificence that's present that we don't see. And my method is a science. And I mean, it's a science. It's duplicatable. Even at Yale University, they've now confirmed its use. And we've used it now in many, many places around the world, thousands and thousands of people. I believe that is the piece that's going to have its impact as time goes on. And I'm refining it and updating it and polishing it. The newest research in neurology, physiology is confirming it. I just know I've got it. I narrowed it down. I've worked 48 years on this thing, almost 48 years. And I'm absolutely certain that'll be the thing that'll probably be the thing that stands the time as far as application, because you can use it 1,000 years from now, it'll still be applicable.
Oh, I've had the privilege of being in the room and going through the process myself. I've seen dozens of people go through the process, and it really is profound and life-changing. And I think, how many times have you done the breakthrough experience over the weekend? How many weekends have you delivered now?
1,090.
1,090.
I've done 1,090 breakthrough programs in 64 countries. I just did one in Turkey, Istanbul. We had 235 people attending. Fantastic A-list of people that were there. Just fantastic. We're getting ready to do it, I think, coming up in Sri Lanka. That'll be a new one. So that'll be 65 countries. So 1,090 times. I've done it about 28,000 hours I've applied to the breakthrough experience. And
so you're standing at the front of the room delivering the breakthrough experience, as a teacher, from your side of the classroom. I've been on the other side. I've also taught in front of crowds, but not anything like this. What do you go through? What do you feel when you're delivering the breakthrough experience?
I just feel like I'm in my element. That's what I love doing. It's what I'm a teacher, so that's what I love doing. I love watching light bulbs go on. I love watching people have a good laugh. I love watching people have a serious introspection and a reflection on things and go, oh my God, with tears in their eyes, a realization about their potential and what they are now capable of doing, and realize that whatever they've gone through, no matter what they've done or not done, they're worthy of love, and that they can now see it, and they can now give themselves permission to go do something more amazing with their life. And they don't have to subordinate to anybody or subordinate to anybody. They can just get focused on what's really deeply meaningful and live an authentic, prioritized life. I love watching that, and it's inspiring to me to get to do it. People go, well, you're almost 66 years old. You when are you going to take a break? Go, a break from what? People come up to me and say, what do you do to chill out? I go, chill out from what?
I am.
I gotta share a funny story if I got the time. I don't know.
Plenty of time.
I was in speaking in Hua Hin, Thailand. And I got picked up at the airport by Miss Thailand, who's the cover girl supermodel, just gorgeous. It's just like, don't get any better than this.
That's a story of your life.
Yeah, I do. I get a lot of that. And so this beautiful girl picks me up, and I'm suddenly going, this is good. And then she takes me to this fantastic resort, top resort. And I'm speaking to a wellness summit. And the wellness summit is the Four Seasons, the Oriental, Mandarin Oriental, all the hotels, all the spas, all the spa industries, anything to do with wellness and health, they're there. And I'm the keynote speaker. So I'm get to be at this thing. And I'm getting taken to the lovely restaurants. I get to walk around with this lady, and all these people are recognizing her. And so I feel like I'm in, kind of la la land. And all of a sudden, they asked me for a press conference. There's about 40 press, media there, radio, television. Everybody was there. Newspapers, magazines. And I'm standing on this stair step kind of waterfall thing with orchids everywhere, because Thailand's got a lot of orchids.
Yes.
And so you're hearing a waterfall, you're looking out a glass window, you're overlooking a beach. There's bikinis everywhere and nice looking people on the beach. I got Miss Thailand on my left. I just got paid, thousands of dollars to go and speak at the thing. I'm being treated like royalty. And this lady comes up to me in this newspaper and she says, Dr. Demartini, I looked on your website and you're a very busy man, you travel much, very busy man. What do you do to chill out? What do you do for vacation? And I said, I looked around the room and I'm in friggin' paradise.
Yeah.
I'm with the most beautiful women. I'm looking out at a beach, a bunch of bikinis. I'm being press conferenced. Yeah. And I'm getting paid handsomely to go and do what I love doing, speaking. And I'm being taken to the finest restaurants and being pampered with the greatest massages in the evening. And she asked me, what do I do for vacation? I said, man, my friggin' life's a vacation. Why would I want to take a break from doing something I love doing like this? It doesn't make any sense. And she goes, so you don't take vacation? I go, no, my life's a vacation. She goes, oh. And she wrote down no vacation.
You surround yourself with all the hotties all day long. You are living a dream.
I was in Japan the other day, and I was speaking, and there was a Miss International there. She's the winner of the pageant, and Miss Japan and Miss Universe there. And it was good. I go in there, and the Miss International comes up to me and grabs my hand, and her specialty is training women how to walk for pageants and gracefully. And I'm like a monkey, right? So I'm like, so she takes me and she says, I'm going to teach you how to walk. So I'm walking in with this she's about as tall as I was, beautiful, the winner of the Miss International. And I'm walking in with this beautiful red dressed lady, and I'm escorting her in there, and she's teaching me how to walk gracefully. And it was hilarious. I mean, it's just absolutely in stitches. And I'm sitting down, and then I'm sitting down between 5 gorgeous women in this chair thing or whatever with these females on the side. And I'm thinking, what the hell? How did I get here? Like, this is something surreal. And then they just asked me questions. So I just got a Q&A with 5 women around me on a Q&A.
It's on the dream board. I know you.
I go, this is pretty good. This is good. I going, how'd that happen? And all I know is that I felt blessed in that moment because, estrogen, when there's a bunch of estrogen, the male, feels a little better, I think.
I know what you'd be thinking. Having the time of your life.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. But I'm not a naughty boy. I do have, the opportunity to get to be blessed by great opportunities.
So for you, this is chilling out. I know somebody once asked you if you could be anybody, who would you be? Yes. I got asked that by Vogue magazine. They asked me 17 questions, and on the very last question, they said, if there could be anybody in the world that you would rather be or could be, who would you be? And I go, I had no desire to be anybody but me. And they go, oh, really? Nobody? And I go, no. Why would I want to be anybody but me? Why would I want to be second at being somebody else instead of being first at being me? I go, oh, you're the first one to answer that way. And I go, oh, okay. I was surprised by that. I would assume everybody would put their own name down. Dr. Demartini, this has just been an outstanding presentation. Well, it's not even a presentation. What is an interview? And I so appreciate it. Is there anything else that you would love to share with our audience? Where can they find out more about your breadth of work, about the breakthrough experience, and especially the values determination? And if there's anything else that you would love to share to help entrepreneurs keep going on their mission, on their vision, and live an inspired life? Well, I'll say this, that whoever's out there who's the entrepreneur, taking a moment and documenting what you're grateful for the day, that centers you, and this is a real reflection, not just some little trivial thing, but just really get centered. Close your eyes, almost a meditative, contemplative state, and ask sincerely, what is the highest priority, the one highest priority action I can do right now with the resources that I have that will serve the greatest number of people and be most inspiring and meaningful for me to fulfill? And if you ask that question and then go and do it, and then when you're finished with that, go ask that question again, sit down and do it again.
And if you keep doing that, extraordinary things will happen. Because there'll be amazing momentum building, perpetual motion activity surfacing. And if you find out what it is that's really deeply most important over and over again, and then delegate everything else, make a commitment to delegate every single thing else other than what is most inspiring to you, and give it to somebody who would love to do it so it's most inspiring to them. So you create a chain reaction of inspiration. And then go with that time and do something that really serves people, not just thought it will, really serves people. There's evidence of it. And then be grateful again at the end of the day and do that again. Your life changes. You make entrepreneurship an inspirational pathway. And if you do that and document that, amazing things will happen. And then hopefully, if you give yourself permission to shine, not shrink like that, you'll be surprised what you're capable of doing, more than you first initially imagined. And start with what you know, and what you know will grow. It'll automatically grow. Just stick to what you know you're committed to and what your life has evidence of. And and also, if anybody wants to have more information from me, if they can tolerate it, they may have to join the 12-step program, Survivors of Demartini, after those things. Your head may be fried or something and smoking. But if they want more, they can go to drdemartini.com and they can find out what's going on. There's tons of media on there. There's YouTubes. There's everything on there, where I'm going and speaking around the world. So they can join that.
Absolutely. And of course, the values, determination, they can find that.
Complementary value determination. It's free. That is a magnificent first step, I promise.
Yes. Well, you know, the Breakthrough Experience set me on my pathway. And I think I met you back in 2007 on stage down there in Sydney. And I am forever grateful that we met. And, you know, what is it now? 2020. And we're still here. And I so appreciate everything that you do, all of your teachings and your wisdom, and sharing that with our people watching and listening here. I appreciate your time. I know you're flat out this afternoon. I just want to say thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed this interview, and I very much look forward to seeing you very soon down in Sydney again.
Perfect. That's a great thing. I look back. I'll be back here. I go to Melbourne tomorrow. I'm off to then I think London and Dublin and South Africa. And I can't see him move. I'm a homeless man still.
Yes, of course.
But I look forward to seeing you. I'll be back in May, so hopefully we'll see you in May.
Yes, I'll be there.
And I thank you for this interview and all that you're doing to make a difference out there with all the people. So thank you.
You certainly inspire me, and to keep going, and hopefully I can also leave a footprint on this planet as you are. And thank you so much for all that you do.
Oh, thank you. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Demartini. Have a fabulous afternoon. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Have a great one.